One of the most common questions I get on my channel is asking about which kind of cube to buy, spring or MagLev, or MoYu, V9, V10, Tornado. In this video, we'll go through 4 easiest steps to understand how to choose a speed cube. Number 1, price. Number 2, the feel. Number 3, the features. And number 4, well, we'll leave that till the end. So let's start and have a look at price. Generally, a speed cube on the lower end will cost about $15 to $20, going up to over $100 for some of the top end cubes. The difference between a bottom end and a top end cube comes down to features, functionality, and quite often brand. At the bottom end of the scale, you have something like the MoYu RS3M V5 with some very basic features, and then the Tornado, the MoYu V10, and then right at the top, we also have cubes like the MoYu RS3M and then the GAN cubes. As you'll notice, as the price goes up, the features stay the same until we get to about the GAN, where they start to increase in price exponentially. I don't think the feature set GAN necessarily matches the price. So let's talk about the feel of a cube. Some MoYu cubes down here you can see are quite blocky. The YS3M is a very blocky cube, and the other MoYu cubes also can feel quite blocky. On the other end of the scale, there's a buttery feel, which the GAN cubes and the Tornado cubes tend to have. One is not better than the other. It really just depends on your turning style and your preference and what you're used to. If you're not used to anything yet, then go to a competition, go to a store and try some different cubes out. See what your friends have and see what they think of their cubes. I've already made some videos on how to adjust a cube with both a classic design, which has a screw and adjustment system, and a more modern design, which uses a tool to adjust both the compression and the tension. And we'll talk about those in a minute. But you can just watch one of these videos and see what the adjustment systems are like on a couple of different cubes. No need to repeat them here. Let's talk about compression and tension. There are 2 main adjustments in a cube: compression and tension. Compression is the spring or the magnet for the MagLev and how that affects the top part. The tension is distance between the middle and the outer edge of the cube. The main differences are the compression is how much the magnets or the springs are squeezing, and that affects the amount of friction when you're turning it. When they're compressed in quite tight, there's a lot of friction in this direction. The tension is about how far the piece here is from the center and affects this kind of distance. The tension will affect corner cutting, that if it's tighter, you won't be able to corner cut as well. But then if it's too loose, pieces might just pop out or corner twist as you're solving. The trick is getting a balance between the compression and the tension. I usually go for the middle for both, around about 3-3, depending on the adjustment system that I'm working with. Let's talk about spring and MagLev in modern cubes. Springs, when they compress, have the same amount of force going back on the compression. Magnets, as they get closer, push back exponentially. And what that means, if you have 2 cubes with the same adjustment system, and one is spring and one is MagLev, different settings will have a different response. As it compresses down, the MagLev gets tighter and the turning gets tighter. The difference between MagLev and spring in a cube really defines how well it turns when we're doing this. This one is a Tornado V3 Pioneer. It has MagLev. This is a Tornado V4 Flagship and it springs. And when I turn this, it seems to be a little bit more smooth and it glides across as I turn it. When I turn this one, I can feel there's a bit more friction because the springs have contact with the inside mechanism, whereas MagLev are floating above each other as they turn. So this will have more friction than this one. This one turns more effortlessly than this one. Springs, MagLev.
Meanwhile,
one of the questions I get asked quite often is spring or MagLev. How would you explain which one to think about and which one to choose?
I think, so MagLev is quicker. That's just because there is no friction, there's less friction in the core because you have repelling magnets rather than the spring, which like catches on the centerpiece. So it'll rub along the bottom of the centerpiece. And that adds a little bit of friction, but in the same manner, repelling magnets, it makes it feel a little bit looser than a spring. Like pieces can flex more with MagLev than they can on spring, even if it's like similar tensions. Personally, some people like this. I prefer spring. MagLev cubes, I find it usually too fast for me, but some people do like MagLev a lot. So like there are definitely options which are good that work on both sides. Yeah.
This is a MoYu Super RS3M and this is a MoYu RS3M V5. This one's slightly older than this one, but the difference I want to show you here is this one is not UV coated. It's just matte, and in the light you can see it just kind of gives a bit of a dull reflection. The UV coated one is nice and shiny, and where that makes a difference is the UV coating just grips a little bit better when turning as opposed to the matte plastic. The matte plastic after a while will also start to go shiny, but won't be as grippy as the UV coating. The UV coating also just looks a little bit nicer.
Moments later.
I do prefer UV, which I'm slightly ashamed to admit, because I think it's slightly, it's a bit gimmicky, I feel like. But like eventually matte plastic will like wear out and it will become more like glossy plastic, which cubes used to be more like. I think the NGC here is like glossy plastic, which is what all cubes used to be, and then they changed to matte, which I think is so that they could introduce UV and put up the prices a bit, but that's just my theory. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think the field matters too much. I do think UV feels a little better though. I do quite like it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All modern speed cubes have magnets, whether they're in the ball core, the edges, or the corners. It's probably just easier if I show you. This is the MoYu Wailong V10, and let's have a look at all the magnets that are included with this one. You can see this has a ball core here, and there are 20 magnets in the ball core. There are magnets here and here and all around it, and those magnets work with the magnets in the edge pieces here and the corner pieces here. And what these do is these corner pieces will attract to the magnets that attract the corner pieces, and then there are repelling magnets here for the edge pieces. So when a corner piece goes round, it's then repelled from that magnet and then it joins in to the next magnet. Edge pieces have opposing magnets, and so these ones will be attracted to the ones here, and then they'll be repelled by the ones that the corner pieces are in. And as a result, what happens as it goes around, it kind of attract, repel as it rotates around. And what that does is it gives the cube a much stronger sensation with the rotations. So it really clicks in.
Later.
Cass, tell me, if you were going to choose a new cube, where would you start and what kind of things would you think about for a new cube or an X cube or whatever?
I think obviously the best way to try to work out which cube you want is to come to a competition and try out a bunch of puzzles. Sometimes you'll have a cube shop like me here where you can try out a bunch of puzzles. But if that's not an option for you, I'd say what might be good is to get the most budget version of a particular brand. So Chi has this Chi M Pro, which is quite good, and it is fairly similar to all the other Chi puzzles. Similarly, GAN have like a sort of unified feel to all their puzzles, from the budget ones to the GAN 15, which is like the top puzzle. MoYu ones all feel pretty similar compared to like the Chi ones or the GAN ones. Once you have a budget one, you don't want to spend too much money on something you might not like. I'd always recommend getting the cheapest one first. See how they feel, see which one you like most, and then maybe go up to a more expensive one that is of a brand that you like. Generally, I am these days. I've always been a Chi fanboy, so I'm really liking the Tornado right now. I liked the Volt back in the day. That was my favorite cube for many years. MoYu have been pretty good recently. GAN is overpriced, but
expensive.
Pretty good.
And let's wrap up with the final point. Friends, don't let friends buy GAN. They're overpriced, and there are plenty of other really good cubes at a much better price point for the features and the usability and the durability of the cubes. I think GANs are a little bit overpriced. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell me what cube you're thinking of getting next and the reason behind it. Spring or MagLev, a MoYu, a Tornado, or a GAN?